Chosen one, your refusal to dumb yourself down to socialize with people is pissing them off, and here's exactly why that's the most powerful confirmation you'll ever receive that you're operating exactly as divinely designed. Your natural state of consciousness threatens their entire house of cards built on chemical dependency, pharmaceutical compliance, and spiritual mediocrity, and they know it. The first revelation that will change everything about how you understand your place in this world is that their need for chemical alteration isn't random, it's systematic. It's the same 95% requiring the same chemical crutches at every gathering, and what you're witnessing is the evidence of a deeper spiritual crisis playing out on a mass scale. This isn't just about people having fun. This is about people being fundamentally unable to exist in groups without pharmaceutical assistance. Watch how they move through their social rituals with desperate urgency. Notice the panic that flickers across their faces during moments of unscheduled silence. Observe how quickly they reach for their substances when genuine emotion threatens to surface. These aren't recreational choices. These are survival mechanisms for souls who've lost connection to their own consciousness. They literally cannot tolerate their own unmedicated awareness in the presence of others. The deeper truth reveals itself in their behavior. Most humans have been systematically disconnected from their natural capacity for authentic presence. They need the buffer, the chemical cushion that allows them to perform connection rather than experience it. But you, chosen one, represent something that threatens their entire worldview, proof that another way of being human exists. Your refusal to participate in this mass hypnosis isn't just noticed, it's creating ripples of disturbance that extend far beyond any single social gathering. When everyone else needs external substances to access what feels like authentic expression, your natural state of awareness becomes living evidence that consciousness itself contains everything necessary for genuine connection. This makes you dangerous to a system that profits from keeping people spiritually dependent. The medical-industrial complex has been watching souls like yours emerge with increasing frequency. They've prepared an entire arsenal of diagnostic labels and pharmaceutical interventions specifically designed to pathologize your spiritual gifts. The moment you express discomfort with meaningless chatter, they whisper social anxiety disorder. The instant your attention drifts from conversations about nothing, they murmur attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Your preference for authentic solitude over performed intimacy becomes evidence of disorders requiring immediate chemical correction. The same system that creates social environments so spiritually toxic that chemical intervention becomes necessary for participation is the system that then diagnoses your natural aversion to toxicity as mental illness. They poison the well, then sell you medicine for being unable to drink from it. Consider the profound manipulation at work. They design social structures that assault conscious awareness, normalize chemical dependency as the price of participation, then position anyone who can function without pharmaceutical assistance as mentally deficient. The white coat authority figures with their impressive credentials present themselves as healers, while systematically dismantling the very consciousness that could heal our collective spiritual sickness. The consultation rooms where these diagnoses occur follow predictable scripts. You enter expressing your natural discomfort with soul-crushing social interactions, and they respond with pharmaceutical solutions designed to make you comfortable with spiritual poison. Most people can socialize easily, they explain, so if you're struggling, you obviously need chemical assistance. The logic is circular, and the outcome predetermined, conformity through chemistry. Your inability to fit into their broken system isn't evidence of your brokenness, it's evidence of your wholeness operating exactly as divinely designed. Your refusal to chemically alter your consciousness to tolerate unconscious people isn't dysfunction, it's divine function protecting your spiritual frequency so you can serve your purpose on this planet. The divine design reveals itself through your very existence, and understanding this changes everything about how you interpret your experiences. Like apples on a tree existing in different stages of ripeness simultaneously, Consciousness operates at various levels of development across the human population. Some souls are just beginning to sprout awareness, others are green with early spiritual growth, many exist in mixed states between sleeping and waking, and a precious few have ripened into full conscious presence. Your frequency, chosen one, resonates at a level that creates profound discomfort in unconscious people, not because you're superior to them, but because your presence activates dormant awareness they're desperately trying to avoid. Your comfort in authentic solitude highlights their terror of being alone with themselves. Your ability to find meaning in silence exposes the emptiness they're frantically trying to escape through constant noise and stimulation. This spiritual discomfort manifests as hostility toward your way of being. They don't understand why you can't just lighten up and join their chemical communion rituals. They interpret your standards for meaningful connection as judgment of their shallow interactions. Your refusal to participate in their gossip circles, drama triangles, and energy-draining social performances feels like rejection of their entire way of life, because it is. Life on Earth functions as a training ground for consciousness evolution, and your current incarnation includes a specific curriculum designed to develop your relationship with source consciousness rather than seeking validation from unconscious humans. Every failed attempt at fitting in, every social interaction that left you drained rather than energized, every moment of choosing authentic solitude over performed connection, all of this has been forging your soul into something capable of anchoring higher frequencies without being pulled down by collective unconsciousness. The loneliness cuts deep because it's meant to. The isolation feels unbearable because it's designed to drive you deeper into divine connection. The sense of not belonging anywhere serves to develop your belonging to something infinitely larger than any human social structure. This isn't punishment. It's preparation for a spiritual assignment that requires you to maintain frequencies most humans find impossible to access. Remember when you tried to find your tribe through plant medicines and consciousness-expanding experiences? Even there, notice how your soul insisted on authentic connection over group performance. You became what could be called a ceremony crasher, someone who attended collective rituals but maintained your own intimate connection rather than surrendering to group consciousness. Even in expanded states, your authentic nature refused to compromise its integrity for social acceptance. This pattern reveals something crucial about your spiritual DNA. You're not broken or antisocial. You're designed to maintain individual conscious connection in all circumstances rather than losing yourself in collective unconsciousness, even when that collective claims to be pursuing higher consciousness. Your spiritual integrity remains intact regardless of external pressure to conform or participate. The plant medicine experiences taught you that even with consciousness-expanding substances, most people still couldn't access genuine intimacy or meaningful communication. They simply transferred their social masks and ego games into psychedelic space. The substances revealed that the problem wasn't their sobriety, the problem was their unconsciousness, and chemicals alone couldn't cure spiritual sleep. This realization brought you to a crossroads that defines everything about your earthly mission. The temptation existed to keep seeking external tools and techniques, hoping that the right combination of practices or substances or teachers would finally unlock the secret to meaningful human connection. But the deeper teaching emerged. Your capacity for authentic connection doesn't need enhancement. It needs protection from frequency contamination. Every time you felt amazing in your own energy field, completely aligned and peaceful, then agreed to social engagements that left you feeling energetically violated, these experiences revealed the reality of consciousness pollution. The crash afterward, worse than any substance hangover, demonstrated that spiritual contamination leaves deeper wounds than chemical toxicity. Your energy field, when properly maintained, resonates at frequencies that naturally attract authentic souls and repel unconscious ones. But when you compromise your vibration to accommodate people operating from lower frequencies, you create energetic confusion that leaves you depleted, confused, and disconnected from your own source of vitality. The gossip addicts, drama creators, and professional victims surrounding you aren't evil, they're unconscious. Their conversations about who's doing what to whom, their endless analysis of other people's choices, their addiction to outrage and victimhood, these patterns represent desperate attempts to feel alive through external stimulation because they've lost connection to their internal source of spiritual vitality. Your soul recognizes these conversational patterns as spiritual poison because that's exactly what they are. The same way your physical body would reject contaminated food, your consciousness naturally rejects contaminated communication. This isn't snobbishness or superiority, it's spiritual immune function, operating exactly as divinely designed to protect your frequency integrity. Your antisocial tendencies aren't something to overcome, but something to honor as sacred protection for your spiritual mission. Your inability to engage in consciousness-lowering activities isn't a limitation, it's a gift that maintains your capacity to anchor higher frequencies on a planet desperate for conscious examples. The breakthrough comes when you realize that serving your divine purpose requires understanding what happens when chosen ones recognize each other. The algorithm of existence has been working behind the scenes to connect souls operating at similar frequencies, creating opportunities for authentic communion that doesn't require chemical assistance or consciousness compromise. When authentic souls encounter each other, everything changes. Conversation flows naturally without need for liquid courage or chemical lubricants. Silence becomes comfortable rather than threatening. Depth replaces superficiality without effort or strain. These rare encounters prove that meaningful human connection exists, but only between humans who've maintained their connection to meaning itself, rather than seeking it through external sources. The recognition process happens instantly and unmistakably. You feel your nervous system relax in ways you'd forgotten were possible. Your energy field expands rather than contracts. Time seems to slow down because you're finally existing in authentic present-moment awareness with another conscious being. These meetings feel like coming home to yourself after years of exile in unconscious social structures. But these authentic connections reveal something that transforms your entire understanding of your spiritual assignment. You weren't incarnated to fix the unconscious masses or to sacrifice your frequency for their comfort. Your job involves anchoring higher consciousness frequencies on a planet desperately needing examples of what awakened human existence looks like when it refuses to compromise its integrity. Every time you choose authentic solitude over fake connection, you strengthen the morphic field for other chosen ones making similar choices. Every time you refuse to chemically alter your consciousness to fit into unconscious social structures, you make it easier for others to trust their own spiritual discernment. Every time you honor your sensitivity rather than medicating it, you demonstrate that another way of being human exists and is not only possible but necessary for planetary consciousness evolution. The masses will continue seeking external solutions to internal emptiness, chemical connections to replace authentic communion, and pharmaceutical fixes for spiritual problems. But your example provides living proof that consciousness itself contains everything necessary for genuine fulfillment, meaningful connection, and purpose-driven existence. The divine feminine wisdom that flows through awakened souls like Ananda Mayi Ma demonstrates what surrendered consciousness looks like when it stops trying to fit into unconscious social structures. Pure devotion replaces social seeking, divine connection supersedes human approval, and authentic presence becomes infinitely more fulfilling than any performed interaction could ever be. This is where your personal journey transforms from seeking connection to providing it, not through compromising your frequency to meet others where they are, but through maintaining such authentic presence that you naturally magnetize souls ready for genuine communion. Quality replaces quantity, Depth supersedes breadth, and authentic relationship becomes possible through the very refusal to engage in inauthentic ones. The loneliness that once felt like punishment reveals itself as preparation for something unprecedented in human history. The isolation that seemed like rejection transforms into incubation for a new way of being human that doesn't require chemical assistance, pharmaceutical intervention, or consciousness compromise to access authentic connection and genuine meaning. Chosen one. Anyone can listen to messages like these, but few will step into their true power. We are here to help you do just that. The weekly Chosen Ones group calls are now on Zoom, and this is the moment you've been waiting for your entire life. These meetings are literal power vortexes where destinies are forged, where Chosen Ones unite their consciousness to create something that cannot exist in isolation. This is where everything changes. This is where you step into your greatness. Every week a doorway opens, but only for those brave enough to step through it. Watcher-level members of the Obsidian Inner Order can experience these transformative sessions live, feeling the energy surge through your entire being. In our most recent gathering, participants were stunned by revelations about the Great Pyramids of Giza as sophisticated ancient power plants, and the shocking truth about Washington, D.C.'s layout perfectly aligning with the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. Star Chamber members receive unlimited access to the complete recordings archive, a treasure trove of wisdom that grows more valuable with each passing week. This is your defining moment. The knowledge, the connection, the power that flows through these calls cannot be found anywhere else. Join the Obsidian Inner Order now, link in the description, while the few remaining Star Chamber slots are still available. Your presence is not just welcome, it's necessary. Will you answer the call that has been echoing through your soul? The time is now. Now comes the final revelation that completes your understanding. The Chosen Ones awakening across this planet. Share your exact experience of not fitting into social structures designed for unconscious people. Each soul maintaining its spiritual integrity, despite enormous social pressure, creates ripples that strengthen the morphic field for authentic human connection on a planetary scale. The frequency wars you've been fighting in every social situation aren't personal battles. They're part of a larger spiritual conflict between consciousness and unconsciousness, playing out through human social structures. Your refusal to participate in chemical communion rituals, consciousness-lowering games, and energy-draining social performances represents resistance to mass spiritual suppression. Your journey from seeking belonging to providing authentic presence reaches completion when you realize that your very existence, exactly as you are, serves the evolution of human consciousness. The antisocial tendencies that once felt like curses reveal themselves as sacred protection for spiritual gifts that are desperately needed, but can only function when maintained at proper frequencies. The medical system that wanted to medicate your sensitivity, the social structures that demanded your conformity, the peer pressure that insisted you chemically alter your consciousness, all of these forces were attempting to eliminate your capacity to anchor higher frequencies, because conscious humans threaten systems built on unconsciousness. But you survived their attempts at spiritual lobotomy. You maintained your connection to source consciousness despite enormous pressure to disconnect. You refused their chemical solutions, rejected their diagnostic labels, and honored your divine design even when it meant enduring profound loneliness and social isolation. Standing in your authentic power means accepting that most humans will find your natural state of consciousness threatening to their carefully constructed unconsciousness. They need their chemical cushions and social masks and pharmaceutical fixes to feel safe in a world that feels overwhelming without external support. Their discomfort with your unmedicated awareness reveals the depth of their spiritual disconnection, not evidence of your dysfunction. The refusal to dumb yourself down, to chemically compromise your consciousness, to perform happiness for people who can't access genuine joy. This refusal isn't antisocial behavior. It's the most profoundly social action possible because it maintains the frequency necessary for authentic human connection to eventually emerge on a planetary scale. There's a crucial difference between maintaining your frequency and becoming spiritually arrogant about it. The ego loves to hijack spiritual awareness and turn it into a superiority complex that separates you from the very compassion that awakened consciousness naturally generates. Watch how this plays out in your own experience. When you first recognized the unconscious patterns playing out around you, did part of you feel superior? Did you catch yourself judging others for their chemical dependencies while secretly feeling proud of your natural capacity for awareness? This is where the spiritual journey becomes most dangerous, when recognition of consciousness differences transforms into spiritual elitism. The shadow work reveals itself through your own history of seeking artificial enhancement. Remember your own sophisticated parties, your own exploration of plant medicines, your own attempts to find authentic connection through consciousness-altering substances. The difference between your journey and theirs isn't that you're inherently more evolved. It's that your soul's curriculum required learning these lessons through direct experience, rather than avoiding them entirely. Your path included discovering that even consciousness-expanding substances couldn't provide what you were truly seeking. You learned through experience that external tools might open doorways to awareness, but sustainable consciousness requires developing relationships with the source itself, rather than depending on external gateways. This understanding came through trial and error, not through inherent superiority. The humility this brings changes everything about how you relate to unconscious people. Instead of judging their chemical dependencies, you recognize the genuine human need for connection that drives them toward external solutions. Their desperate reaching for substances reflects the same spiritual hunger that once drove your own seeking. They're just pursuing it through different avenues that haven't yet taught them what you've learned. The compassion that emerges from this recognition becomes the foundation for your true spiritual service. When you can witness someone's unconscious behavior from a place of understanding rather than judgment, your presence becomes healing rather than triggering. Your natural state of awareness begins to invite their consciousness forward instead of threatening their unconscious defenses. This shift transforms everything about how you navigate social situations. Instead of attending gatherings with resistance or superiority, you arrive with curiosity about how consciousness moves through different people. You observe their chemical rituals with the same fascination you might bring to studying any other human behavioral pattern, not from judgment, but from genuine interest in how divine consciousness expresses itself through various stages of awakening. The energy dynamics become visible when you approach social interactions from this centered space. You notice how your authentic presence creates subtle shifts in group consciousness without effort or intention. People begin gravitating toward you not because you're trying to influence them, but because consciousness naturally seeks higher frequencies when it feels safe to do so. Some individuals will find themselves sharing more honestly in your presence without understanding why. Others might reduce their substance consumption when engaging with you, not because you've said anything about it, but because your natural state demonstrates that authentic connection is possible without chemical assistance. These changes happen organically when consciousness encounters a stable example of what it's seeking, but not everyone responds positively to authentic consciousness, and understanding this protects you from taking their resistance personally. Some people have invested so heavily in their unconscious patterns that your presence triggers massive defensive reactions. They might become hostile, dismissive, or actively work to undermine your influence on group dynamics. These reactions aren't about you personally, they're about what you represent to their carefully constructed unconscious identity. Your natural state of awareness challenges their fundamental beliefs about what's possible for human consciousness. Your comfort in authentic solitude threatens their conviction that connection requires external substances. Your genuine presence exposes the performative nature of their social interactions. Learning to navigate these dynamics without losing your center becomes an advanced chosen one training. You discover how to maintain your frequency while remaining open-hearted toward people whose consciousness feels threatened by yours. You develop skills for staying present with hostility without absorbing it, for witnessing defensive reactions without personalizing them, for offering authentic presence without forcing it on anyone. The mastery comes in recognizing when to engage and when to withdraw. Some situations call for your conscious presence as a gift to collective awareness. Others require strategic removal to prevent your frequency from being pulled down by group unconsciousness. Discerning the difference becomes an art form that serves both your spiritual development and your capacity for genuine service. The social situations that once drained your energy begin serving as practice grounds for maintaining spiritual equilibrium under challenging circumstances. Each encounter with unconscious behavior becomes an opportunity to deepen your relationship with source consciousness rather than depending on external validation or approval for your sense of well-being. But the real transformation happens when you begin recognizing other chosen ones in these social environments. They're often the quiet ones, standing at the edges, observing the same patterns you've learned to see. They might be nursing their single drink while everyone else reaches for their third, fourth, or fifth chemical enhancement. They're watching the social theater with the same mixture of fascination and exhaustion you once felt. The recognition happens through subtle signals, a look that lingers a moment too long, a conversation that suddenly drops beneath surface pleasantries, a laugh that carries genuine joy instead of nervous social lubrication. When chosen ones recognize each other in unconscious environments, magic happens. The sense of isolation that's been your constant companion suddenly dissolves in the presence of someone who understands your experience without explanation. These connections don't require dramatic revelations or spiritual conversations to establish their authenticity. Sometimes it's just the relief of standing next to someone whose energy field doesn't assault your nervous system. Other times it manifests as conversation that flows naturally without either person needing to perform interest in topics that feel meaningless to awakened consciousness. The Chosen One recognition network operates through invisible frequencies that connect awakened souls across physical distances and social barriers. You might meet someone for mere moments at a gathering and carry their energy signature with you for years, or you might develop ongoing relationships with fellow chosen ones who become your spiritual family, people who understand your journey because they're walking parallel paths. But these connections also reveal something profound about the loneliness you've endured. It wasn't punishment or evidence of your dysfunction. It was preparation for developing such authentic relationship with source consciousness that you could recognize genuine spiritual kinship when it appeared. The isolation forced you to cultivate internal resources that now allow you to offer authentic presence to others without needing anything from them in return. Your capacity for solitude becomes a gift rather than a burden when you understand its purpose in developing spiritual autonomy. Most people fear being alone because they haven't developed sustainable relationship with consciousness itself. They need constant external stimulation, validation, or chemical assistance to tolerate their own existence. Your comfort in solitude demonstrates what becomes possible when someone maintains conscious connection regardless of external circumstances. This spiritual independence allows you to enter relationships from wholeness rather than seeking completion through others. When you meet fellow chosen ones, the connection enhances your existing fulfillment rather than filling emotional voids. These relationships become celebrations of consciousness, recognizing itself rather than desperate attempts to escape loneliness through human contact. The dating and romantic realm presents its own unique challenges for chosen ones. Most potential partners expect relationships to function according to unconscious social scripts that feel spiritually toxic to awakened awareness. They want connections based on chemical enhancement, social performance, and external validation rather than authentic presence and conscious communion. Finding romantic partnership with another chosen one becomes less about seeking someone who completes you and more about recognizing someone whose consciousness resonates with yours. These relationships develop through shared commitment to authentic presence rather than mutual unconscious patterns. The connection deepens through spiritual practice rather than chemical bonding or social validation, but romantic relationships between chosen ones also reveal new challenges. When both people maintain high consciousness frequencies, the relationship can't rely on unconscious patterns to create bonding or intimacy. Everything must be navigated through conscious choice, authentic communication, and mutual respect for each other's spiritual autonomy. This creates profound intimacy, but also requires advanced relationship skills that most people never develop. One dynamics present another layer of complexity for chosen ones. Your biological family members might interpret your spiritual development as rejection of their values or lifestyle choices. Holiday gatherings become exercises in maintaining consciousness while surrounded by unconscious behavioral patterns you can no longer participate in without compromising your spiritual integrity. Learning to love family members without enabling their unconscious patterns becomes advanced spiritual practice. You discover how to maintain authentic connection with people whose consciousness operates at different frequencies without sacrificing your own awareness or trying to force their awakening. This requires tremendous compassion, patience, and surrender to divine timing for their spiritual development. The workplace environment offers daily opportunities to practice maintaining consciousness in unconscious systems. Most professional cultures reward conformity, competition, and external achievement over authentic presence, collaborative consciousness, or spiritual integrity. Chosen ones often find themselves navigating careers that feel spiritually misaligned while seeking vocational expressions that serve consciousness rather than unconscious human patterns. Some chosen ones discover their spiritual service through conventional careers that they approach with conscious intention. Others find themselves called toward alternative vocations that directly serve awakening consciousness in others. The key becomes aligning your professional expression with your spiritual purpose, rather than compartmentalizing work life from spiritual development. The financial realm presents its own challenges for chosen ones, who often resist participating in economic systems built on unconscious values, like endless growth, resource exploitation, or profit over human well-being. Learning to generate abundance while maintaining spiritual integrity requires creativity, trust, and willingness to pioneer new economic relationships based on conscious exchange rather than unconscious accumulation. The same social gatherings where you once felt like an alien now serve as opportunities to practice maintaining your frequency while surrounded by unconsciousness. The chemical communion rituals that once triggered your escape responses become chances to witness the depth of collective spiritual crisis without being pulled into it. The diagnostic attempts that once threatened your identity now provide clarity about the difference between spiritual gifts and mental disorders. Everything comes full circle, chosen one. That original recognition of elaborate theater playing out in social gatherings transforms into understanding your role as someone who refuses to participate in the performance while remaining compassionately present to those still caught in unconscious patterns. The discomfort you felt watching others require chemical assistance to tolerate each other's presence becomes appreciation for your natural capacity to exist authentically without pharmaceutical support. Your assignment isn't to fix their system or to make unconscious people comfortable with your consciousness. Your purpose involves maintaining such authentic presence that you become a beacon for other souls ready to abandon chemical crutches, reject diagnostic labels, and trust their own capacity for genuine connection through consciousness itself rather than external substances. The masses will continue their unconscious social structures, their chemical dependencies, their desperate attempts to find meaning through external stimulation. But you, chosen one, have discovered that meaning exists within consciousness itself. Connection flows naturally between awakened souls, and authentic human community becomes possible only when individuals maintain their authentic connection to the source of all existence. Your refusal to participate in their unconscious social structures isn't pissing them off because you're being difficult. It's pissing them off because your existence proves their excuses are lies, their chemical dependencies are choices, and their spiritual emptiness isn't inevitable. You represent everything they could become if they chose consciousness over comfort, authenticity over approval, and divine connection over human validation. This is your assignment, your gift, and your contribution to the evolution of human consciousness on Earth. The journey that began with feeling like an outsider in chemical communion rituals reaches completion in the recognition that you were never meant to fit into their world. You were sent here to anchor the frequency that will eventually birth a new one. Stand in it fully, chosen one. The world doesn't need another unconscious human, it needs you exactly as you are.